All right, Donnie. You can see me stressing out live. Audio, audio. Testing, testing. Yeah?
Yeah, let me get a mic check. Can I get a mic check?
Oh.
Check. 1, 2, 3. Check. 4, 5, 6. Thank you very much.
There's a lag.
We're good.
All
Good to go.
right, all right. Okay. Still good? We're still on?
Yes.
All right, yes. Welcome to the launch of Sacred Spells. Your patience while we battle our technological overlords. But it looks like we're live. Hello, everyone out there. Really hope you are watching indeed. Thanks for coming out tonight. We're really excited to have all of you here. My name is Greg. I am the co-founder of the Bureau along with my partner, Donnie. We have our lovely volunteers.
Yay!
Our lovely volunteers, Bella, Bonita, and Ben. We only take volunteers whose names begin with C. We have a suggested donation tonight for $10. We always say give what you can, if you can. I'll pass this around, but if you're holding on to money to buy books, that's a wonderful way to support us. So we'll let you make that decision. And if you can just smile, that also serves as a donation. You can also make a donation on Venmo, those of you online, at BTSQD. And you'll get that as well. So thank you very much. We are an all-volunteer organization, and that's how we survive, donations and book sales. If you're not already on our email list, you can sign up for that at the back of the room, and you'll get an email every other Monday about upcoming events. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, we're up and running. I hand it over to Michelle Carlsberg, who edited this fabulous.
Evening, welcome, Lord, everybody online, thank you for joining us this evening. So excited to be in New York for this celebration. I'm also very grateful for the hard work and activism both Donnie and Greg, owners of the Bureau, do, as it is important that they survive in a world that just wants to fan books. So definitely support. I want to give a shout out tonight to both books, who's here this evening, publisher Stephen. Every other writer would hate me because I was able to get a book contract in 2.5 seconds when I posted that I was going to publish Assotto's collected works myself, so that it was out there. Jamie Sharon Cohen gave a call and said, would you be interested in speaking with Nitro? And Stephen and I spoke, and I think it was a match made in heaven, and it's definitely the right place for Assotto's work to be. We also look at the distribution. that it deserves. So I'm quite happy about that. This past Monday, October 2nd, was Assotto's 66th birthday. So this evening, we're here to celebrate Assotto and the birth of Sacred Spells. I am also happy to announce that Assotto's cousin, Guy, is here with us this evening. So his dear, dear, dear friend and executor of Assotto's estate, Liz Anderson, is here this evening. I'm so excited and very supportive in every way to keeping Assotto's words alive and keeping Assotto front and center. So we continue to celebrate Assotto in every which way we can. I would also like to thank other countries for co-sponsoring this event. To Assotto, because he introduced me to the most wonderful Black, gay men and women in the literary movement 30 years ago. They're also beautiful, but they also have extraordinary work. And I am so happy that I was and still am that part of history. Here this evening, we have many folks in attendance that were a big part of Assotto's community, his chosen family, and being able to spend some time together this evening after 30 years surely keeps Assotto's presence in the world. Many of us are tuning in from around the world through the live stream. That you couldn't be here this evening, but you are also an integral part of Assotto's life. Professors, scholars, students, readers, old and new, who are either teaching or studying Assotto's work. So we thank you for continuing to support Assotto's work. It is exciting to hear from new generations reading Assotto's words. And all I can say is fasten your seatbelt, as he will take you on many journeys through history, through his writing. His words and his messages are straightforward. And he knew that as much as things might change a bit over time, he also knew not much change would happen at all. This is indeed why his work, whether it be a painting, sculpture, dance, song, poem, essay, or play, is as important then as it is now. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for your interest in his work. Before I turn the evening over to Walter Holland, who will be your host this evening, who is a poet himself and a very, very close friend of Assotto's and has a really great memory and has brought me back in time. And it's just so vivid and it's a wonderful thing. But I wanted to share some video of Assotto reading during the evening. I had recently gone through some old VCR tapes of those. And so excuse the quality because I'm actually videoing the VCR tapes. And in this first video, he's reading a poem entitled Howard Beach. Assotto retired this poem soon after reading it. Perhaps it was too painful to read, knowing deep down that the hate would never end. So please enjoy our evening and take a listen to Assotto Saint.
Oh, sorry, that's not the one.
African word blogs. The next poem was inspired by a news bulletin. Through barbed wire, beyond squatters' camp, in need of the sky, two black boys reach forbidden horizons. Bullets with blood powder. There's some niggas on the boulevard, let's go and get them. There's some niggas on the boulevard, let's go and get them. There's some niggas on the boulevard, let's go and get them. One, evidence, baseball bats, tired iron, shattered late night. And a black man beseeches his God not to let him fall on Calvary. Mercury flashes Pluto's summons away from America. May he discover her. Two, I shake off the nightmare sweat to cleanse my soul. I shake off to cleanse history, cold sweat. This water is no blessing. And the rage in me climbs out to free the sun in our sky of clouds. That was Howard Beach.
Right. I hope you can hear me back there. Eve could project. I call him Eve, but his nom de plume was Assotto Saint. So I want to welcome everybody to this happy occasion. It is a happy occasion because tonight we're celebrating the publication of his collected works, as Michelle said. The book was so lovely edited by Michelle. And also she was Assotto's literary executive. It has a foreword by Pamela Sneed, who we'll read later. And an introduction by Katie Sherman-Cohen. It's really a wonderful volume, and it's a cause for thanks. It really is. That after all these years, Michelle and others have put this together. It's a wonderful achievement. My name is Walter Holland, and I'm pleased to be hosting this event. Assotto was also known as Eve Lupin, and he was my dear friend and mentor and fellow writer. From the day I first met him at another country's Pride event on Christopher Street in June, what day was it? June 28, 1986. And I continued meeting with him until his death on June 29, 1994. I think it's fitting that our friendship began with Pride and that he left me with Pride. She did. His legacy we now honor 30 years later. It's amazing. Assotto was multi-talented, as you can see, a gifted orator and performer, an astounding playwright, dancer, and singer, a fierce poet, ferocious activist, a guiding force in promoting the poetry, specifically of people of color, through his Galleons Press, which he set up in his Chelsea apartment on West 22nd Street, near 9th Avenue. Galleons, the name of the press, by the way, was a contraction of gay aliens. Put it together. It was there on 22nd Street that Assotto and Jan Holmgren, a gifted composer, singer, and performer from Sweden, who was his partner and lived with him, lived. And Jan passed away in 1993. Assotto was devoted to his family, and especially his mother, Marie Lupin, I should say. I know some of his family are here, and I know that Michelle has already said hi to Patel. There are many fine memories we have of him, and of Marie, who was just an astounding woman, his mother. Assotto cast his spell far and wide, as you can see. We were all captivated for both the man and the artist. I know I was. Tonight, I hope you will be as well, mesmerized by his creative legacy. Before I give you the order of this evening's speakers, I jotted down a few reflections on Assotto that I'd like to share with you. While I cannot match his ferocity and his powerful performing talents, I can say that I knew him on a quiet, contemplative side as well. I was blessed to have shared many days on West 22nd Street, seated in his apartment as he lay semi-reclined on his beloved couch and pensively would flutter his eyelids as he gazed upward, seeking in reverie to talk about the world, the gay and lesbian movement, the necessity of poetry, and the gay friends who would shout up to him every night below his terrace their campy retorts as they headed off to the Eagle, the Ramrod, or the Eagle. In some ways, I wanted to say all literature is a spell which summons the past, conjures life, and brings forth an absent human voice into the present. The written page, every time we read from it, either to ourselves or hear it spoken aloud, performs a ritual old as writing itself. Words, by way of their rhythms and sounds, their visual interplay, resurrect and convey ideas, feelings, and the imagined realities from human experience. Eve assumed his nom de plume with two ideas in mind. Assotto is Haiti's most sacred voodoo drum. And by appropriating this musical device, he saw himself as an instrument of transformation, as any artist would. Because an artist converses powerfully with their world, compelled to send out messages of alarm, jubilation, salvation, and communion. By taking the name Saint, Eve reflected his spiritual side, not in a rigid religious sense, he'd been raised Catholic, but to assume the fierce devotion of the artist who seeks to achieve the truth, to honor those who came before and those who will come after. Assotto looked to the Yoruba religion of West Africa and admired the concept of the Orisha, which was seen as a human on earth who acts as a spirit sent by the supreme creator to assist humanity and to teach humans on earth to be successful and enlightened. The Orisha was only deified after earthly death. The Yoruba Orishas were sexually ambiguous, indeterminate, and gender-bending. Assotto strived to embody this persona in his performances, in his plays, and his speeches and writings. His poetry is filled with metaphor, symbolism, and ritual. Tonight, we honor that Orisha, that spirit who tried to dare us to be more. And in a decade of horrible plague and political oppression, namely the 80s and 90s that he and I shared, but which could also describe our today, we are gathered here to summon that enlightened love and succeed in a spiritual fearlessness. I shall read one poem of Assotto's entitled Nuclear Lovers. Now, Assotto read this poem to me in the Evergreens Cemetery in Brooklyn. As he showed me the grave plot and headstone he had selected for both him and Jan. The headstone already was engraved with a short epitaph which read, "Nuclear lovers met on November 9th, 1980. This epitaph was drawn from the poem which he wrote for Jan, but also to an unknown future still to come. The epigraph for the poem is taken from the writer Karl Morris. Karl was another fine New York-based poet, playwright, activist, and friend who died at the age of 73 on July 26, 2008. I could tell that Eve in Nuclear Lovers was speaking of its powerful union with Jan, but also proclaiming his ever-abiding love, even across the years to tonight. Nuclear Lovers. This is from Karl Morris. And the 20th century is dead, and the 21st century is dead, and the 22nd century is dead, and the 23rd century is full of fairies. Soon, as they sound the alarm, let us run to the river where we first met, sat many a sunset there. With bare hands, we will dig a deep hole in the earth, lay together. Centuries later, when they excavate, they shall hear two hearts regenerate love in the universe. So tonight, let's hear those two hearts beat again and spread their regenerative love among us. The order of appearance, which I'll just tell you, will be the writer, Jewel Gomez, via Zoom. And Jewel will be followed by Reginald Harris, poet. And then after Reginald, Pamela Sneed will read her introduction. And this will be followed by the performer, Alan Luther Wright. Unfortunately, Guy Mark Foster, who is going to be here, is COVID, unfortunately, and could not make it. But he will be reading from New Love Song, which was one of Assotto's plays, which I had the pleasure of seeing with my husband, Howard. Jan sat on the stage performing music he had composed, and Assotto was the lead, of course. And it was a wonderful play, and it had all the European Orisha energy. He was into symbolism and spells and metaphors, as you should see. Then we will have two more videos of him, one reading and one talking about the March on Washington in 1987. And then he will read The Quilt. And finally, we'll have singer-musician Gary Paul Wright. And before each presenter comes up, I'll just give a brief introduction. And then at the very end, Michelle and I will say some words. And after all that, there's a fabulous party with food and drink. And so stick around, but don't forget to buy the book. It's really a wonderful achievement, and it brings him back to all of us. So first, I will present Jewel Gomez. Jewel is on Zoom. Jewel Gomez is the author of 9 books, including her groundbreaking Black lesbian vampire novel, The Gilda Stories, which is wonderful, which has been in print for more than 30 years. Her new book of poetry from Black lesbian feminist press is entitled Still Water. So I turn it over to Jewel.
I can see you. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm so sorry I'm not there with you partying and eating and celebrating because oh, I lost you. Wait a minute. He was such a big part of my life, and that sense of history that was being made, that we were making around us. So I want to read from an essay called Sacred Life, Art, and AIDS. And like most of Assotto's writing, it's kind of a stream of consciousness poem, really. And he had the theatricality to deliver an essay like this. So I'm going to do my best to read some excerpts from it, and hopefully you'll get a sense of the way his mind used creativity to think about scary and dangerous things. Theater narrows life down. Theater always presents itself in the present. On leaving the theater, the audience has to feel that it has awakened from stage dream. It narrows life down. It has explored some shared meaning, a catharsis. A writer should write not only what he understands, but also live with questions, always opening himself up to new ideas, possibilities, and rebirth, revolutionary, terrorist, committed, supreme act of human courage, will, and human power in killing indiscriminately. In the belief that there are no innocent people in a corrupt society. The artist recognized the criminal or revolutionary, anarchist, terrorist as romantic. Individual who set himself proudly and defiantly against, above, and beyond the laws, and who embodied one of the possibilities of which artist and poet dream, that of giving to the limits of his being, regardless of the consequences. As men of color, we have always depended on spirits and music, depended on the elements to survive. I feel a rush. I will go on, but I will not forget you. Nativist movement in America. By delving into our wants and needs, those things that make us tick, we discover that the essence of revolution and rebirth lies within. Achieve his potential, not only to survive, but to grow tall and flourish, not to fight against, but to fight for. Eternal becoming, draw us out of ourselves into the community, translate raw emotion into imagery, rejected the Platonic supremacy of reason, embrace integrity of feeling. We must constantly stand firm against systems, a permanent indictment of the way this world closes in upon itself. Silence equals sin. Literature fails to act, allowed to influence our destinies by the choices we make. For the shaman does not simply make the journey we all dream making it. He makes it on our behalf as our envoy. The shaman goes to the gods to present the wishes of the community, his journey as inward and psychic. Man's nature, man's purpose in living, man's destiny. What is the good life? Hysteric shows his own misery and desires by means of a symptom. An artist submitting and being swept up by mystical forces, heroes not totally understand. He might be hallucinating or going insane. We do not die in our dreams. Our will operates even in absurdity, even in the negation of possibility, even in the transmission of lies from which truth can be remade. Unlike a musician or a painter, a writer needs language, obvious and not very interesting, until the question, which language? Our century is littered with examples of writers who have had to make a choice to stick with or abandon their mother tongue, affirmation of a happy omen, a hurricane of thoughts, relationship between artists, private vision and audience understanding, global village, exploring common elements of human life without benefit of dogma. The writer grows desperate, quietly, or not so quietly, as a failure or a has-been, finally sets up plans that are pretext, great silence with no end in sight. Finally surrenders, listening, wandering the ways of the world in search of adventure and glory, innocently making his way through a fallen and sterile world, a poet of loneliness, isolation, haunted and haunting, a poetry of free simplicity, enlarges our understanding, triumph of written word over death, everywhere but invisible in his work. Epidemiology and demographics of AIDS, HIV, is disruptive. It disrupts the smooth flow of your life, living with questions. We all want easy answers that alleviate our mystery. I've kept myself alive by being open, by acknowledging the too real possibility of my dying young. AIDS is but one of the many problems we face as a society. It did not make me an activist. My therapist keeps insisting that I display anger. I am past that. And finally, it takes so long to move into one's self, always evolving and revolving. Tragedy demands a calm despair, promise of community guided by moral intelligence, active social sense, or ethical thought. When used as a message, not a punishment, power to move people if it's true, not about what I ought to do, what I ought to be, harness his central concerns. I often come to the peers. This is where, after closing Joe's and David's eyes, we went to hear their voices, language of symbols shared by the community. Art is a way of telling truth. Artist is a model for future generations, transforming the self and society. Startled by the image in the mirror, learning involves fear and awe. Thank you.
It was wonderful. Hey, I think Reginald Harris is going to come up. Reginald Harris is a consulting project manager for Learn with Lambda at Lambda Literary. Reginald Harris won the 2012 Cape Anum Northwestern University Press Poetry Prize for autogeography. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. The bookstore family, Nightboat, for bringing Assotto back to us. I mentioned to Michelle that, I guess one of my early poems was published. My first big publishing, event was being in his anthology, it meant a lot to those of us who, were not here to here in New York, to, be able to see Black gay writers, Black gay men writing about our lives, which, before this, it's sort of like, well, we didn't know who are. I thought I was the only one, and the world has changed in part because of what Assotto.
Sorry, one second.
Okay.
You're saying this mic?
Yes,
This
let's
mic?
switch the mics, and we're gonna be on this side, because I know there's a volume differential.
Okay,
If we could get a little closer to the mic as well,
okay.
that one will pick up.
Sure, or I can just, you don't. Is this better? Hello?
Yes.
Hello. I want to apologize, my sinuses and allergies decided to kick in yesterday. Of course. I'm gonna read 3 poems. The first one is This Hour's Death for Joe Caballero. 2:03 a.m. 2 lovers, one in sleep twists, the other bored with the late movie, both shaken by insistent rings. One picks up, hesitant, then screams, guessing the other runs to the bedroom. 2:24 a.m. Cautious steps greeted by a scavenger in mask, gown, sanctity. She drags a screeching stretcher. The friend lays wrapped up. Lazarus, rise, one wishes. Doubtful, the other checks the pulse, deafening in its silence. 2:31 a.m. Torn, one speaks to him, the other of him. Across deserted corners, one chokes on tears, the other shoulders a red plastic bag. 3 a.m. Candles glow, ghost petals, shadows in a bowl of holy water, rippled by pleas. To soothe another restless night passage, one prays, hums, chants, the other sips coffee, ponders who will be next. The March, Don Washington was mentioned before. This is a poem called The March. Too young, let us not fall like cattle to redeem America's plaguing prejudices. Let us not fall, let us. Savagely charge a country tempted by fascism. Our martyrdom is no fake slaughter, but terror is a syndrome which can act up like bleeding black wolves. Too young, let us not fall like cattle to redeem America's plaguing prejudices. Let us not fall, let us. And finally, the last poem that I'll read is Heart and Soul to Essex Henry. Every day, every time I leave my house, everywhere I go, I pin on my knapsack twin petal, small flags to which my allegiance is pledged whole. These flags are not monkeys on my back. I carry them as a coat of arms, mantles of double brotherhood. They shield like second skin to drape my dreams. One floats rainbow, the other wings tricolor, both bold with movement. I'm not ashamed of what they stand for when their meaning is questioned. These flags are not chips on my shoulders. I carry them as beauty spots, marking of double brotherhood. They shine like mirror beads to reflect prejudice. One unfurls the future of the queer nation, the other salutes African ancestors. Both wave SOS signals. I'm not afraid to stand my ground when their beauty is questioned. These flags are not crossbones on my life. I carry them as amulets, emblems of double brotherhood. They spellbind like stars to strike America. Glory that becomes me in tribal rituals and battle against bigots. I am honored with my blood. Everywhere I go, every time I leave my house, every day.
Wonderful. Next is Pamela Smith. Pamela doesn't really need an introduction, but she's a wonderful. Performer and visual artist, and she is the author of Imagine Being More Afraid of Freedom Than Slavery, both in 1998, but it's just been re-released by Fordham University Press. That's great. And other works, which is really good. Sweet Dreams by Belladonna Press, I believe, 2018, and Funeral Diva, which is wonderful, published by City Lights, October 2020. So here's Pamela.
Thank you, everybody. Can we raise this up? I'm actually gonna sit down. I'm really happy to see everybody. It's very emotional, you know, it's like, I don't know, I try not to think about everybody I lost in certain ways. I mean, even though I do every day. But coming back here, I feel like coming home, you know, these poets, Assotto, Donald Woods, Essex Hemphill, like all of those people were the people who made me. So I'm very honored. In my mind's eye, the Haitian-born American poet, playwright, performance artist, publisher, musician, and AIDS activist Assotto Saint was a towering figure. Perhaps because they were, in fact, over 6 feet tall. Though he passed away in 1994 of AIDS-related complications, the last time I recall seeing them was in 1992 at the funeral of poet Donald Woods. On that day, Assotto wore heels and a men's suit. I also recall when I first saw Assotto perform sometime in the late 80s, they delivered a performance about HIV testing while standing on top of a tabletop at the Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Community Center on 13th Street. For those seated witnesses, Saint appeared gigantic, larger than life. Sacred Spells, the collected volume published this summer by Nightbolt Books, is the work of a gay Black poet who indeed possessed a giant mind, talent, heart, and ferocity. People still talk about Assotto. Often, every day, still. Those young people researching the archive, the Black LGBTQIA historians, poets, performance artists, dancers, and friends who knew him, the young Black queers searching for themselves amongst books in the library. When I say still, I also mean that when we think of that time in the late 80s to early 90s, when the AIDS pandemic raged as the COVID pandemic rages now in the US and across the globe, when we remember the casualties, the terrible losses, the gross homophobia, racism, and the crimes against humanity enacted by our government against queer and trans people, when we think of the beacons, the self-ordained priests who carried us through that time, we often think of Assotto Saint. Indulge me, but if this were an essay like Faith Rainbow painting quilt with the Statue of Liberty looming large and some sort of contemporary middle passage with Black bodies adrift in the water, you would very pointedly see the crown of Assotto Saint's head floating above. Crown is an apt word because Assotto was a king, a queen, a prince, a princess, all members of the royal family combined.
They challenged gender binaries. They wore makeup, earrings, and dashikis. In poetry and activism, they also led. In sacred spells, their poems, stories, and plays still point toward a future where queer people of every color have human rights, where healthcare is attainable, accessible for all, and upholds human dignity, where queer people are allowed to exist and present in all of our complications and nuances, where we are safe and do not have to hide. As someone who was a comrade of Assotto, came of age in the early part of the AIDS era and found my voice among so many Black, gay men, lesbians, and LGBTQIA people, I am thrilled and grateful for this compilation of their work. I am struck not only by the tremendous craft and beauty of Assotto's poems, but also by Assotto's insistence to write and speak when they themselves, their life partner, Jean, and so many around them were dying. To insist upon sex, intimacy, the erotic, and love, to continuously speak truth to power, to fight and rage against the many silences enacted upon Black gay men. I marvel at how so much of the work is an intimate and personal love letter to Jen, to all the lovers and friends they encountered, to all those who fought AIDS. Assotto was someone who, even when riddled with illness, would not back down. They continued to rally and rail against this government's stupidity, inaction, and violence. Reading this work, I am reignited with courage. On a personal note, as many know, and as I've often spoken and written of, I owe a great deal to Assotto Saint. Maybe we all do. As I've stated, I was there in the church that day in 1992 at the funeral of Donald Woods. I was one of the many attendees from Donald's activist family. I was one of the many who read the program and saw the glaring omission of Donald's poetry and activist work. The program also stated Donald had died of heart failure. I was one of the many who witnessed Assotto speed down the aisle and take over the pulpit mid-service declaring, Donald Woods did not die of heart failure, he died of AIDS. He was a proud Black gay man, and if you agree with me, stand up. Half the church stood, half did. I stood up, as did Donald's sister Yvonne. I count that moment as one of the few where my path as an artist was revealed to me. The second most defining moment in my life happened in 1990 when I attended the I Am Your Sister conference in Boston, a celebration of the work of Audre Lorde. In her first appearance on stage, the self-described warrior poet Audre emerged, spread open the arms of her dashiki, and told a crowded room of followers of her battle with cancer. She said, I began on this journey as a coward. Witnessing the courage of Assotto and Audre shaped me as a poet, a person, teacher, performer. I want everyone I encounter to experience the sense of exhilaration and freedom when the truth is told, bare naked, and to feel the power of standing up for their lives at whatever cost. Recently, I helped lead the last Address Tribute Walk in Harlem with several organizations and individuals. The walk was originally developed by Alex Viallo. We went to Harlem at my insistence. In tribute, we went to the addresses of Black gay men who died of AIDS. We went to the address of Bert Michael Hunter, who was part of the Black gay writers group Other Countries, of which Assotto was also a charter member. Donald Woods, Colin Robinson, and Essex Temple, among others, were members as well. At Hunter's address, the filmmaker and writer Robert E. Penn and the writer, archivist, and activist Sir Rodney Sir spoke of Bert and belonging to other countries. Sir recalled a story of running into Assotto in the late 80s when Assotto urged him to join other countries. They said, Sir, don't abandon your brothers. I think that statement encapsulates Assotto and what their convictions were. The title of this collection, Sacred Spells, very much refers to Assotto's powerful Haitian ancestry. I was thrilled to learn here that the person born Yves Dupin renamed himself Assotto after a drum used in voodoo, and Saint after the great Haitian revolutionary fighter Toussaint Louverture. Saint also embodies their queerness, claiming self-ownership as a poet and a magician whose language conjures, casts spells, and offers protection and healing. No name could be more fitting. I know in certain Latinx ceremonies, they call the names of the dead and the fallen warriors, and the crowd responds presente to mean present. Assotto's work speaks to us throughout time. I imagine in the Black Baptist tradition where I'm from, Assotto's name is called out, and with all of my heart and my conviction, I yell, present! He is always here, always among us.
Really brought back the spirit of Eve. I think he really saw when we're in it. Next up is Alan the Wright, who will read from Assotto's play, New Love Song. Alan Luther Wright presently writes for the Speaker of the New York City Council, and his own works can be seen in a number of anthologies, including A River Runs Beneath Us, Voices and Writings of the Rio Book Project, the Lambda Literary Award, nominated Black Gay Genius, Answering Joseph Beeb's Call, the Lambda Award-winning The Road Before Us, 100 Black Gay Poets, and Sojourner Black Gay Voices in the Age of AIDS, as well as the first other country's journal, Black Gay Voices. He is the only surviving cast member of Assotto Saint's first staging of New Love Song. Here he is.
No, I love following this Pamela's needs. That was really beautiful. I had been out for 10 years when I finally moved to New York and walked into this building and joined other countries, met Len, and of course, Assotto. And that's where I learned about chosen family. That's been a guiding principle of mine ever since. New Love Song is a multimedia performance piece, text by Assotto Saint, music by Jan Urban. This was supposed to be a duet, but I'm gonna muddle through. Let's see how this goes. Ever since this health crisis started, I have engaged myself more and more in the reality of our lives that get dealt in so many questions. Where do we fit in this reactionary new age of America? Where do we fit in a racist society, in a homophobic Black group? What do we believe in? What makes us live? Lacking any real sense of Black gay history, probing every tidbit of early memories, gossip, secrets, stories, looking for truth and a folklore all our own. I've been at my wit's end, grasping empty air. All winter long, I hike across America to feel for myself the mood of the country. Returning to New York, full of disappointment, anger, and disbelief, at how far we had come as a nation, yet how backward we were moving, I stopped in Baltimore, the city I was born, the city I had left in tears, still in my teens, right after Ma's funeral, and that major argument with Paul about all these fairies I ran around, vowing never to return, not even when he died 6 years ago. There I visited Uncle Roy, Paul's younger brother, who had moved in with us when he came back from World War II, blind and disabled. Just as I remember, a short, slightly built, jolly man, always in bright colored clothes and shiny army boots, a silk scarf tied around his neck. No teeth now, yet a smile a mile wide. And his dark glasses, wooden cane, smelling forever of Old Spice. Uncle Roy used to gather all my cousins, my sisters, and me. We kids would listen with such eager ears to his tales. When Ma would say, "Roy Robinson, when you gonna grow up? You is no teenager." He'd shout back in rasping laughter, "Why should I? Kids don't jump rope like I do." You should have seen him hop on one leg, two doing the double dutch. It was so funny. Early on, I suspected Uncle Roy was in the life. One thing I knew for sure, he is enjoying it. Never a complaint, never a raised voice. Uncle Roy read palms and could tell the future, or what kind of person you were, just by a handshake. A firm one that you were ambitious. A weak one, wishy-washy. A high five, you ought to know your way. So when he predicted I'd be a sculptor, took me to the art supply store that day and bought me a red box full of tools, I was too thrilled. He said to me as he took my little hands in his, "Go ahead, Mom. Sculpt what's real to you." And I did just that. Pa had a fit, and Ma fainted when they came home and found that I too had gone to work on the living room furniture then. I had sculpted rainbows and cows, stars and pigs, Martians with big eyes and chickens hatching big eggs, flying angels and little boys, black boys everywhere. We laughed so hard at the serious whipping Pa had administered to my ass that night, which was not funny then because those cheeks burned for 6 days straight. And Pa forbade Uncle Roy to play with us kids on account that he was a bad influence in our impressionable minds. We swapped stories that night. I shared with him my ups and downs. In the morning, he took me to the cemetery. I pointed to the plot. He pointed to the plot where he wanted to be buried between Grandma's pink grave and Ma's, which was next to Pa's. Right before I left for the train station, he said, "Son, whenever you're down deep in darkness, you feel you just can't go on, let that little light in your soul shine. Let it shine. It will take you home." Then he put his hands all over my face, all over my head, my shoulders, my chest. Touching him was fantastic. But being touched by him was magic. I want to break new ground and mold myself a brand new community of Black gays standing up once and for all in realization, validation, and celebration of ourselves. A brand new community of Black gays aspiring to the visions we have for ourselves. A brand new community of Black gays singing a new love song. Not just for America, but for ourselves. I see the possibility of my creation begins with us, touching ourselves. In touch, there's feeling, healing, togetherness, a safe promise. The light we've been looking for and can follow home to this garden in our soul where once again we root ourselves. I have journeyed to Machu Picchu, stood beneath the towering arches of the Colosseum, called on Amun-Ra, climbed atop the many pyramids of Mexico, crisscrossed Africa, sat down from dawn to dusk on a stone in the Acropolis, walked along the Great Wall of China. I have roamed the four corners of the earth, ferreting out humanity's poetic essence. Man dies, values endure. Luckily alive, I sing out the soul of Black gays in America. More than ever, I give oral dimensions to our visions, where Black and gay is an everyday necessity, transcending nothingness. I am the root. I open the earth and pass through it, a hero of my own making, a hero to myself, a hero to America. My whole life has been a work in progress. Searching for my elements, I wanted to share with you this new love song. Missing the dreams, they were burnt out too fast, missing the joy that was not meant to last, walking in smoke on the ash of our past. I want to sing a new love song, flowing like a jet stream, new love song, washing all over me. I want to sing a new love song. I want to sing a new love song. Stripping my heart of these layers of pain, stripping my heart of these memories that drain, standing alone and exposed once again. I want to sing a new love song, flowing like a jet stream, new love song, washing all over. I want to sing a new love song. I want to sing a new love song.
Beautiful.
I believe now Michelle will run two videos. So,
We're
great.
waiting on Gary Paul, right? I don't want to make him stuck in traffic, so I tried to call him, so this might be the end of the evening.
Okay. Which one first, the quilt or? No. Let's see.
One of the hardest moments for me happened last October when the quilt revisited Washington, to put for lack of a better word. And Jan and myself got there very early, around 8 o'clock in the morning. And as soon as we got there, three of our friends' names were called within like 1 minute. Because we had made something like 5, 6 quilts. And it's like it's a pain that just grips you, or and it's just like, and you think, you hear out of the blue just like that 3 of your friends' names and people who were so close to.
Is that it? I guess that's it.
This is not the Fire Island sand. This is not Fire Island sand, but molten lava. We are burning. You talk strangely. I stuck. Cross-country fabric. Hand-sewn name panels, sequins, bulletins. Daily roll of photographs. Painted resistance, flashes, pens, albums, whistle, jockstrap cats, tuxedo stars, t-shirt, butterflies, feather dolls, leather bears, patchwork lives, cut 3 by short, Joe, testimonies, counsel, memories, loop, fantasies. It's them. They were here. It's them. They were here. It's them. Pinch myself. No TV, mixed media, homo, epidemic, hemo, quarantine, virus, junkie, the blood, HIV, test, semen, work hustle, couples, CDC, T-cells, hemorrhage, pneumocystis, bad blood, teridola, Africa, boycott, opportunistic, GMHC, condom, and IH, always the blood. Michael Bennett, Willie Smith, carriers, Gaetan Dugas, asshole, president, commission, syphilis, positive, sex, vaccine, Joe, testimonies, counsel, memories, Lou, fantasies, it's them, they were here, it's them. They were here. We might not make it to the fog, grids, display, epitaphs, full circle, headache, grips of fan, under the skies, dark clouds, perhaps Kleenex cry, sun strength. Holocaust imagery in this tragedy, 100% futile. Judeo-Christianity infamy in this travesty, 100% fatal. Our country, piece of Teflon keepers bullshit. Our country, piece of Teflon keepers bullshit. Our country, piece of Teflon keepers bullshit. Joe, testimonies, Lou, fantasies, counsel, memories. It's them. They were here. It's them. They were here. It's them. The march.
And that was our friend, Assotto Saint. We are very grateful that everybody came out tonight. And it is homecoming. It is, we're all here together. We're still standing. And it's important that we stand together. The one thing I realized over the last couple of days, I was going through the archives and I just said, you know, he always took time. He wrote a thank you note. He mentored folks. No matter how ill he was, he took time. We need to take some time. Make that promise to yourself. Do it for Assotto. And share this book with everyone that you know. It's an important part of history. His words will live forever. And as I always say, Assotto Saint was Billy Porter before Billy Porter was Billy Porter.
Oh, that's so true. So this ends our celebration, I guess. Join us for food and drink. Get your copy of the book, of course. As I said, Assotto believed in the power of words, and he wanted us all to embrace our creative freedom. His favorite epigraph in signing books was, "Dare to be more, dare to be more." Assotto faced down bigotry and homophobia And living in Haiti, he dreamed of becoming a saint, as though it were an easy vocation to obtain. He used to tell me that as a kid. He wanted to be a saint, and so he prayed and prayed for it to happen. And I think he's performed a few miracles here tonight. And this is the queer gospel according to me. And I think he got his wish to have wings. So thanks.
Thank you to all the contributors this evening. Really, you brought I have beans, I got plantains, and I got chicken in the other room, so let's go celebrate.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Jewel.
Bye.
Bye, Jewel.
Evening, Joy. See you soon.
Night all, thanks for joining us.